Should I invest in an RRSP? That is a question that you may have, and if that's a question you have, then you are in the right place. I always say Canada has 5 seasons. You have spring, summer, fall, winter, and of course the RSP season. And the question often is, okay, should I be invested in an RSP, right? Okay, so let's talk about it. Before we jump into that, just know that an RSP is an investment vehicle available in Canada. And then we're going to talk about how it works. And we're going to speak about the benefits and we're going to talk about the drawbacks. And hopefully, you will be left with some type of understanding of when you should or shouldn't be investing in RSP. So let's talk about an RSP. First thing is the benefit of an RSP is that you get tax savings today. So one of the best and the biggest benefits of an RSP is that contribution reduce your taxable income, right? Which means that you pay less taxes now, and also the possibility of getting a tax refund when you file your taxes. The higher your income, typically the more significant your tax savings is. So the tax deduction aspect of it is a huge plus and a huge reason why many people contribute to your RSPs. Now, we're not going to talk about the threshold and how much deductions right now. That's for a different video. We're going to talk about just generally why to invest and not to invest. So just know that they're tax deductions. Next thing is once you have that money in an RSP, the investments inside your RSP goes tax free, essentially goes tax deferred, right? So it allows your money to compound faster. You only pay taxes when you withdraw the funds in retirement. And if you're strategic, when you're pulling those funds, hopefully you're in a lower tax bracket, which means you would have gotten the benefit of earning this money when you're in a higher tax bracket. Now you're in retirement and you're pulling from that RSP and you're in a lower tax bracket. So you'd have the benefit of a deduction, having your money go tax deferred, and now you're pulling that money that you earned at a higher tax bracket and you're only paying in a much lower tax bracket. So that's the benefit of an RSP. The next thing is it often creates savings discipline, right? So an RSP encourages long-term savings because it restricts withdrawals until retirement. No, your RSPs, you could always have access to that. And when you talk about restricting, I think the concept is really mental restricting. What do I mean by that? Often when individuals recognize that if they pull money from these funds, then what's going to happen is they're going to pay taxes, and also the fact that it's a retirement savings vehicle. Those two things, I think, often create a mental barrier for people to think twice before pulling from that RSP. So in many instances, what it does is create retirement savings discipline is what I call it. The other benefit of an RSP is spousal contributions. If your spouse or common law partner earns significantly less than you, contributing to their RSP can reduce your household overall tax bill. And even though the room is being used based on your room, when you contribute to your spouse's tax bill, contribute to your spouse's RSP, the long-term benefit is that when you both retire, all the funds don't have to come from you, because if it does, again, when we put from RSP, we're going to get taxed. We're going to get taxed at a higher bracket. The benefit here is that if we have somewhat equalized the investment in the RSPs, then we have also equalized retirement income, and it potentially lowers your taxes in retirement. Another reason to invest in RSP, another benefit is that if you're a first time home buyer, you can withdraw up to $60,000 from your RSP, tax free, to put towards your home. Just know you have to pay that back over 15 years, and if you miss those years, then the amount that you should have contributed will be considered income. But the benefit of it is you can have that money in your RSP, but you have this option, a pretty useful option actually, for achieving home ownership. So it's not just locked away and never have access to it. You always have access to it, but the benefit that you contribute to purchasing a home without having that tax ramification. So not a benefit, right? So if you're concerned about that long term, you want to purchase a home, RSP is still a vehicle for you. The other thing is that RSP contribution room carries forward. So if you can't contribute the maximum to your RSP in a given year, don't worry. Your unused contribution room carries forward, giving you the flexibility to save more in the future. In fact, you could contribute this year and not take advantage of the deduction if you know, for instance, that next year you're going to be in a higher income tax bracket. You could be strategic about, using that room in the future. So we've spoken about 6 reasons why you should invest in RSP. And by the way, this is by no means an exhaustive list. This is essentially, some of the more popular reasons. Now let's talk about when not investing in RSP. And again, not an exhaustive list, but more or less a guideline. If you don't have an emergency fund or liquid savings, then you may want to reconsider, strongly reconsider not contributing to an RSP, right? Because early RSP contributions, RSP withdrawals, pardon me, it comes with penalties, meaning that once you pull that money out, it's going to be considered income. So potentially you're going to get taxed on that, maybe even moving you into a higher tax bracket. You also lose that contribution loan, right? And you never get it back, unlike a TFSA. So it makes it crucial or important for you to prioritize and consider having an emergency fund first, that if something happens and you need funds, you can look at an emergency fund instead of an RSP. Now, if your income is 50,000 or less, if you're a lower income earner, then you may benefit from a TFSA, FHSA, or some other vehicle, but RSP may not be for you, because the really good one of the benefits is that tax deductions, and you're not maximizing your situation if you're below $50,000. Now, even if you're above $50,000, you can even close to 100,000, depending on your situation. It may even be more strategic not to contribute to an RSP now, because you're going to have significant income in a year's time, which for many people it could be 3 months from now, 4 months from now, whatever the situation is. Or you could even contribute and not take advantage of the deduction until a future year, right? So, but generally speaking, 50,000 I think is a good threshold to look at. If you have high interest debt, paying off that high interest debt also will provide better financial returns than contributing to an RSP, because when you think about high interest debt, which think of credit cards, for instance, 28%, 25%, 29%, whatever it is, right? You may have this investment. You may hope that it does really, really, really well. But on average, most investments are not beating 28, 25%, right? So paying off the high interest debt often provides better financial returns than contributing to an RSP, right? For obvious reasons. You have this debt that has a significantly higher interest that you have to pay out versus something where you're earning significantly less. It makes more sense to deal with a debt first. Now, if you're planning to spend your tax refund, that may also not be the best use of your situation, because using your tax refund for non-essential expenses often undermines the financial growth. So reconsider investing in a TFSA or debt repayment instead. So if you're just contributing just to get the tax refund and spend that money, it's probably not the best use. Look at your situation, see what makes the most sense, and especially if you're doing an RSP loan, it is not the best situation to be doing that, because the debt, the RSP, the loan that you use for that debt for RSP loan is not deductible. There may be instances where, for example, if you have a high interest debt, paying off that debt may make more sense than paying off the loan immediately. But generally speaking, if you're just using your tax refund for non-essential expenses, it undermines the financial growth and your situation. So reconsider in that situation. Next thing, if your savings for your child's education, an RSP with government grants and in some instances even bonds is in many cases a better choice for education savings than an RSP. And a beautiful thing about RSPs is that even contributing, even if the fund's doing poorly, because of the government grants and the bonds, it just makes it a worthwhile investment. So if you're saving for your child's education, look to an RRSP versus an RRSP. If you work at your job, hopefully you're working at your job. If you're at your job and you have a workplace pension, a strong workplace pension may reduce your need for an RSP. So you got to be careful about that you don't over contribute. A lot of people, for example, teachers or people with great benefits, what happens often is their room is, they don't, it's taken up by the pension. And so when you go to contribute, you have to be very careful how you don't over contribute, because then you can get hit with a penalty. And so in many instances, a TFSA could be a better supplement for tax-free retirement income versus contributing to your RSP. Lastly, we know we spoke about the home buyers plan, but we have to balance that with the new offering that we have here, which is the FHSA. So the FHSA offers a tax-deductible contribution and tax-free withdrawal for home purchases, making it a smarter choice for home ownership than an RSP in many instances. Now, some instances you may want to take advantage of both, but you want to definitely examine the situation and see what is the best option. Hopefully, this brings some clarity to your situation. If you have any questions, feel free to book a discovery call with me. I'll have a conversation. We can speak further about your situation. And again, these are just guidelines. Understand that your situation is unique to you. I just thought it would be helpful to highlight some of the do's and don'ts and some of the instances where you may want to consider an RSP and instances where you may not. See you all soon. Take care.